Jimmy, what is it, Jimmy? You're in the Coast Guard and veteran. And be sure and get your questions ready because Jimmy will answer them. I was in his shop one time with another buddy, and I asked him, "Are they catching any fish?" But of course, he's going to say yes because he wants me to buy bait. But he said, "Yeah, he told me the exact spot at Amelia City." And this was the old days. My buddy and I, we caught 12 redfish each. And I think since then I've caught 12. That was about 10 years ago. Jimmy, what else are we going to say about you? JD used to work at his shop. Do you have anything good to say about him?
Wow. I had a good time deckhanded for him on the Johnson, Jason Carson.
Well, he is the backwater expert. He's going to give us a lot of information. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
Yay, Jimmy!
Yay!
I thought while we were doing while I'm giving the presentation, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free. I don't guide anymore, so you know, I'm all open. You know, it doesn't matter what you ask me, man. I mean, I'll give it to you straight. You know, spots, anything y'all need. So I thought mainly what we're going to talk about is what you had said about backwater fishing, different ways to go about catching trout, redfish, flounder, sheephead, and any other species that you might want to target. In the winter, you can fish stripers way up the river. And I guess with that said, let's go on right to it. First thing I would talk about is float. Probably one of the most popular ways to fish in the fall and winter is live bait fishing, and trout, redfish. I like to use the float rig. Very easy. You don't usually get hung up. I'm going to show you exactly how to rig a float rig, and then if you have any questions while I do it. But I like using a braid line and then use fluorocarbon leader, probably a little lighter than your braid, and that way if you do hang up and when you go to pull it out, hopefully your leader will break and not your whole rig. Okay? And what we need to do is put a slip knot on it, and that way it adjusts the. Maybe I think somewhere I can stand this thing. No, that's all right. I got it. So there we go.
I'll hold it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Somebody else will hold it.
Well, you don't have to do it that way. Just trying to get this thing. So anyway, we use the slip knot I use are a little rubber, sort of like so slip. I'll show you the package of them, and what that does is. There we go.
This is really his first day fishing.
So, this is your slip knot right here, and I'll show you a package of them. You guys can, I know it's going to be hard to see, so at the end, or at any time, you can get up, or I'll show you the rod. But that's how you adjust the depth. So when you go, say you're going to fish shallow, you would adjust it here, and the weight takes it down, and it hits that slip knot, and that's how, that's the depth you're going to be fishing. Now, if you want to go deeper, obviously you slide the knot up, or the rubber gasket up, and then when the cork goes on its side, that'll tell you that you're on the bottom. So then, pull it down a little bit, and that way you glide right over the oysters, and it drifts with the current. I like using the inexpensive floats, but there's many different types of floats you can use. You can use, a lot of people tend to use those stick floats. I don't like using them because it seems to me you're fighting more of the float than you are the actual fish. This one's small, fish doesn't know it goes down, and I use a little, I call them trout sinkers or trolling sinkers. This is a 1/2 ounce, and then when you use the skinnier floats, you use a 3/8 ounce. Then you go to, I use 15-pound test fluorocarbon leader to a number 4 wide bend hook. It's sort of like a K hook and a J hook combination, and like it's a wide bend. To me, it's the best hook for trout fishing, red fishing. They come in 4, 2, 1 sizes, and then on up. So the other way you can float fish would be.
Can y'all hear without this?
If I'm not talking loud enough, let me know.
We're gonna try it without.
Here, I can hold it now.
Okay.
All right. The other type are these clacker rigs, okay? They make a noise when it's drifting down, and you go, click your rod, and it'll make that clicking noise. It attracts a lot of fish. Drawback to this rig is you can adjust the depth. Whatever depth you think you're going to be fishing, you know, say you want to do 4 feet, take 4 feet of line and then tie a number 4 wide bend hook. About 12 inches, I'm sorry about that, about 12 inches above the hook, I like to use a split shot. And you attach the split shot, that way it keeps the shrimp down, but but it's not too big that it affects the way the shrimp will swim and appear to the fish. Okay, again, I like using 15-pound test fluorocarbon with that 4 wide bend. Okay, that's a clacker rig. You can get them in all the bait shops and stuff. Like I said, if you want to go to shallower, then you got to cut the line, tie the hook. And the other drawback to it is when you do get to it, you don't want to ever put this and reel this into the tip of your rod. You'll break the ceramic of the rod tip. Also, so if you're fishing 4 feet of water, your fish is out there 4 feet to where you get to the end of the rod. So it's a more for a shallow type fishing. At least that's in my opinion. That's a clacker rig. And this is what I was telling you about the whatever you want to call them, tube floats. They make them in all different sizes. I think they're best used for at the jetty when you're in real deep water with a lot of current, and that's the best application for that. Some people use them, it's old school. They use, in my opinion anyway, they use them all the time. I just like that little float with a 3/8 or 1/2 ounce trolling sinker. Okay. Any questions for what I just went over right there? Yes, sir.
It seems like you prefer fishing the bait closer to the bottom.
That's exactly right. I prefer when I'm trout fishing, I like to be about a foot up off the bottom. Now if you're fishing up against the marsh, we'll get to this later, but you can take what they call just tie a hook and do a free line. Throw your shrimp out along the marsh and let it swim naturally. It's a killer way to do it, but if there's any current at all, it's almost impossible to do it when there's a lot of current. But yes, you're exactly right. I like personally 1 foot off the bottom. So you go ahead and let your line down until you feel it on the bottom. Your cork goes on side, then you pull it up. Adjust it a foot so it's about a foot off the bottom. And you got to keep adjusting it. You'll be doing that the whole time because as the tide changes or as your cork floats down, you change the drift. You have to keep up on it. Because with that adjustable rig, you're going to be in different depths, and you got to keep changing it. But
Jimmy,
it'll work good.
with a float rig, if you stop it in the current, your bait comes up like
Exactly.
that. So you want to let the float drift naturally, because if you stop him, the bait just comes right up to the surface of the current.
That's an awesome point. when fishing in Cork, as Marvin said, you have to, a lot of guys you like to use bait casters. I personally am a spinner guy, but you have to let it drift along with the current, and then as soon as it goes down, click, and then reel. I probably said that statement, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of times, but, click, reel. But if you don't do that, that shrimp will just spin like a top. That was a great point. Any other questions on that type? I'm going to show you the rigs first, and then, if that's cool with you guys, and then go back to places where to fish at, and, that's probably the best bet. Okay. Next, this would be for flounder fishing. And although Marvin probably did, and all you guys that are flounder pounders do a lot better than me on that. But egg sinker, depending on the current, I like to go the lightest sinker possible. Then I go to a bead, and the whole idea behind the bead is it protects your knot. Every time that sinker hits, if you were going directly to your swivel, it would eventually wear your knot, and it could cause a weak link, and then you break the line. So we go the lightest sinker possible. This one I think is 3/8, but depending, you may go ounce, 3/4, depending on how much current you're in. And then a bead. Then I like using probably about a number 7 barrel swivel. Then I like to go up on the leader to about 20, maybe 30 pound test fluorocarbon when fishing for flounder or sheephead. With the flounder, I like to have a longer leader than I do on the sheephead. I'll go to a shorter leader when I sheephead fish, around the pilings and such like that. With flounder, I like using a number 2 wide bend, and if the fingerling mullet, and I like to use fingerling mullet as the best bait possible, then drop down to mud minnows or whatever you can get your hands on. But a 2 wide bend is about the best size all around, but you better have some wide bends too, because if you can't get any small mullet, you have to go to a bigger hook. And like I said, I would do 20 to 30 pound test fluorocarbon leader. Sheephead, just a shorter leader. With the sheephead, I like using a regular J hook, like a bait holder, and preferably like a number 1/0, something like that. Eagle claw bait holder. That would be the only difference in this type rig, would be the shorter leader and also the type of hook. I don't use a wide bend when I sheephead fish. I use a J hook or the bait holder. All of it's eagle claw.
Jimmy, why is that?
For one, I think the fiddler goes onto the hook better. It's got those little prongs that are on the actual bait holder, and it does exactly that. It holds the bait, right? And it just seems to me that it works better than a, wide bend hook. I don't use circle hooks. I'm not a big fan of circle hooks doing this type of fishing, but I'm not putting them down. Everybody has their thing, I'm sort of old school. I like to, set the hook on the fish and, do its thing rather than, But when I surf fish, yeah, I like to use a circle hook. But any of this other backwater fishing, I'm strictly J hooks, wide bends, that type of thing. Any questions on? Yes, sir.
How do you hook your mullet?
With the mullet, I like to hook it with the mullet right through the lips, up top, and the fiddler straight through is underneath through its back. The fiddler's going to die as soon as you put the hook on, but that's neither here nor there. That's bait, I think bait of choice, or clams, oysters. Any other questions on? Yep. Okay. Next rig if you're, inclined to go show your friend or something pretty cool, as long as you let it go in a responsible manner, you can take go bull red fishing in the backwater. Tons of bull reds, and I like using a sinker slide to a bead, then to a swivel, up the ante on the fluorocarbon and probably 40-pound test, 40-pound test fluorocarbon, and then I like a wide bend, same thing, but probably a 1/0 wide bend. And then I like to use a chunk mullet if you don't have a chunk mullet. Right now is a good time if you're into it to make a couple casts with pogies out there. They're out there thick, and they're in the river too, by the way. All you want in Amelia City, freeze them.
What's a chunk mullet?
Chunk mullet. You get a little larger mullet, not a fingerling, but a little larger. And I like to cut the tail off. We can keep the head, but preferably the center cuts. That's a great bait. And reds, the bull reds aren't that picky. You can freeze them and then use it at a later, as long as they're, fresh frozen. Like I said, the pogies are in the river right now, so it's a good time to, if you plan on taking company or yourselves or whatever to go bull red fishing, it would be smart to get some pogies now, put them 12 to a pack, lay them flat as a pancake. As soon as you catch them, as soon get them home as soon as you can, and then put them in the freezer. Like I said, flat with 12, maybe 14 pogies in it, and let air circulate so they freeze quick. Excellent bait. Cut the tail off, use the head. Just cut the back part of the tail off so it doesn't twirl. Then hook the pogie through the lips. Doesn't get any better.
And the braid?
The braid for bull reds, you probably want to up it a little bit. The thing with braid is, it could be 40-pound test, and what's that? Probably 15-pound test equivalent. So, I go a little bit, and then when you do get them, like we said, you want to, I would get your picture, no problem, and then let it go as quick as you can. Run water through it, but it's a fun thing to do. I always used to like taking the kids through it. So bull red, that's the rig. Preferably, you probably want to go a little, stouter rod, but I just did this one. But sinker slide, bead, swivel, leader, hook, and you can get whatever hook you want to use. I like that big wide bend, and then use a chunk of bait or a pogie, whatever or a chunk of whiting. That works great. Any one of the above. And I can tell you some spots. When we go to spots, I'll tell you spots that we go in the river.
Okay, what's your chunk size? Like an inch, 2 inches?
Yeah, it depends on your hook size, but I like a chunk about like that.
2 inches.
And hook it just any way you can hook it through the back of the chunk. Chunk's the best way to go. Pogies are right there with it. Mullet run's going to be coming up, and it's easy to get the mullet. To get some big ones when you're trying to catch finger on a mullet or whatever, put a few in the freezer, and then if you want to take, you got to let the reds go, obviously, but it's a pretty impressive fish. If you have friends or whatever, when you see a 30-pound red, they'll think that you're the guru, and it's really pretty easy fishing. And it's in the river. All this, there's great jetty fishing, but everything I'm talking about today is in the rivers. You don't even have to go out in the ocean or whatever.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
You went from trout to flounder. Did you say you increased the poundage on the leader when you went to flounder?
Sheephead, I like to have a heavier leader. Yeah, if I skip over something or whatever, my memory or something. But I'd like to use a heavier leader for the, really for both the sheephead and the flounder, but the sheephead, you're around those islands and stuff. So I like a heavier fluorocarbon leader, but also with the flounder, they have those teeth to deal with. So, at least 30-pound test fluorocarbon. That's just my opinion. I don't know what some of the other guys do. When we get to the lures, I'll tell you different lure strategies, that you can use. Okay, so I did that. Yep. We did the float fishing. We did the flounder and sheephead, same rig. And then we did the bull red fishing. And incidentally, this is probably the most popular rig of any type rig. Sinker slide to a bead swivel leader hook. I mean, that's how I tarpon fish. That's how you bull red fish, you whiting fish in the back of the range. I took the kids the other day, and we caught bunches of sharks, whiting, you know, I caught marine biology 101, the kids have a ball. There's never a dull moment. Very behind the range, go southwest, maybe 200-300 yards, probably at the last of the outgoing, first of the incoming, and use that rig, except with a smaller hook. And I like to use, this is a 066 long, I'm probably putting out a lot of things in a quick time, but 066 Mustad, it's a long shank. That way when you hook like, you know, a little baby shark or whatever, you don't have to really get, you know, hurt the fish or anything. Use that long shank, just right out, no problem. But that is probably one of the best things to do if you got, you know, some grandkids or kids or whatever you got going, you know. It is a lot of fun. Yeah. All right. Any questions so far? Right on.
If you're kayak fishing and you don't want a big 6-foot pole and reel, what kind of pole and reel would you recommend for
Sure.
kayak?
Kayak, if you don't want a 6 foot 6 and 7 foot are the go-to rod. Not on the kayak. I'm
Right.
saying on in general, that's my go-to length. You could go with a 6 foot. I would definitely go one piece. You go 6 foot, and you could go with a backwater lure fishing or something with a 1000 Shimano or a 2500.
Any collapsing or?
I would go one piece when it gets that short, you know, 6 foot. I would stick with one piece. You know, I don't, if it's not, you know, in your way. Now, they do make travel rods and everything where they're like 4-piece and stuff. But they just don't give you the action when you get to that short of a rod, you know. But you can do it if, you know.
Do what you gotta do.
What's
Yes,
the
sir.
depth of the water you prefer fishing in?
Pardon me?
The depth of the water you prefer fishing in?
And that's a broad statement because if you would say, Jim, what kind you want to go trout fishing, what do you prefer? You know, every fish has its depth, and along with that depth, the spot, or vice versa. Hey, I'll tell you one good trick though. This is not good, but it is a fact. If you see some guy out there netting a fish, you blink your eyes, man, and the thing you remember is what tide you were at, obviously where you were at, what tide you were at, and you know, the whole 9 yards, and don't ever go there when he's there. That's not cool. I mean, but you know, that's how. I mean, face it. That's how everybody finds spots. You know, unless you're out there every day cruising around looking for spots, it may happen. You know, probably get shot by 100 people by saying that. But, I mean, that's. I mean, you think, guys, if I ever saw you net the fish, man, that was. You want to keep the rod down when I was going by, or just fight the fish and know I'll remember it. You know? That's facts. Any other questions? Okay. Lure fishing. I prefer a 7 foot. I'm more of a 20-pound test fluorocarbon. I mean, braid person, but 15. The thing with 15, when you throw it, you can get wind knots pretty easy. I mean, that wind is such a thin diameter that it tends to, you know, go all over the place. But it does work. You can throw it a mile. So 15 or 20-pound test braid. Thing with braid is you're going to have to learn a blood knot because when you're lure fishing, you want to come with a piece of fluorocarbon to boot. So you would go braid on your rod and then go with, you know, a 20-pound or 15-pound test fluorocarbon leader. Okay? Tonight, I don't think we're doing knots, but it's, you know, a blood knot or a uni knot, double uni, you know. And then go to the mono, and then to the lure you're going to use. So, different lures. I prefer jigs. To me, they're the best thing going all around lure. Is a jig with a plastic tail. But for the people that want to topwater fish or subsurface fish, same rig, same everything, but you know, you're going different plug. I like using Rapala skitter pops. That's my favorite trout lure. Mirror lure, top dog, but the thing with a walk the dog lure, you got to really be proficient at it. Whereas skitter pop, it's so easy. You know, pop, 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 stop, pop, stop, pop, stop. Real easy lure to use, and it's unbelievable action. You know, when you get it early, it's early in the morning or late in the evening. And it could be a whole lot of fun. And it's just coming up through the fall and in the spring. When it gets too cold, the topwater isn't, that effective. But,
Jimmy, on your jig rod,
yep.
you mentioned about take the jig, the plastic jig off, put a shrimp on.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Say a lot of guys fish that way. They make specific jigs for that, or you can just use a regular jig like this is. Some of them, they have the flat bottom sliders. I think there's a company sliders that makes it. All different types of bait jig heads. But like Marvin said, you can just pop the tail off and put a live shrimp, hook it through the tail, or a minnow or a mullet, hook it through the lips. And that's an excellent way of fishing. The only problem is, you have to know where you're fishing at, because if you're fishing anything with structure around it, it gets expensive. Because you'll be throwing that jig on the bottom and, you'll be hanging it up. You really got to know where you're fishing with it. But it is an excellent way of doing it, just depends on, what type of fishing you like to do. So Martin is exactly right. The other one is the, I don't even know if you guys want me to say this one, but anyway, the flounder fishing with, what is it, the dirty boxer, what was the other one?
Gulp.
Gulp. The gulp, that is, I think it's a 5-inch swimming mullet.
5-inch gulp.
And then the dirty boxer, I don't even know, 4-inch or something.
Fish fights.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the two lures that are tremendous for flounder. They're awesome if you're a lure guy. It's the best one out, in my opinion. Or if you're the type of person that likes to use bait and you just can't catch any or find or whatever, you can always have that in your arsenal as a backup. I know some of you guys, that's what you do. You throw, lures for flounder. I've never personally been proficient at it, but I see the guys do it all the time, man. It's an awesome way. Flounder is a unique fish. It's a tough fish to catch, in my opinion. It's one of the hardest fish out there. But so that would be with a jig, a little bit like a 1/4 ounce to 3/8 ounce, and it's going to have a bigger hook if you're going to use the gulp, because it's a bigger bait. Reel it in slowly, a little twitch here and there, But a lot of guys flip them, just toss it out. And if you guys, anybody that does it has any input on it,
You were talking about the gulp and the fight boxer, whatever. They're both curly tail, I think.
Yes.
What do you think about? Is there any time when you'd say, "Oh, I want a paddle tail versus a curly tail or a jerk bait"?
That's a good
Jerk,
question.
yeah.
I personally, for flounder, but I'm not all knowing on this subject, you can get some other input. For flounder, I only use those two, or a white curly tail jig, tail, but that's all I ever use for flounder. But then if you go to trout, definitely the paddle tail is probably my number 2. I'll show you. Is a great trout lure. You put it on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and it's what? Listen, taking so much stuff. this stuff here if anybody wants to look at it. This is the bass assassin, saltwater assassin, sea shad, and the electric chicken. And this is a paddle tail. It's a great color. And yes, sir.
Best retrieve.
I'm sorry.
What's the best retrieve?
Slow with a little twitch. I like brewing slow mostly all the time. When it's a little warmer, you can speed it up a little bit, but when it gets cold, definitely slow her down. But that helps. You know, just. And then when it quit you like that, that's good. Let's all go get him, man. And then the other would be a little faster retrieve when it's a little warmer. And if anybody has any input on that, you know, I'm always about learning. Yes, sir.
When you say slow, you mean like bass fish and worm slow?
Probably a little bit faster than that, but you're on the right page. And also, the jerkbait would be the same as you were fishing a plastic worm. Slow retrieve. And jerkbait's great because you can go weedless with it. You know, the whole works.
Have you had anybody with success with voodoo?
Voodoo?
Voodoo shrimp?
Oh yeah, I personally never used them. We sold the heck out of them. It was a hot lure. I would tell you something's not true if I told you I use them all the time. Never did. I was always a contender guy because that was our company. And I would put it up against any lure on the market for a certain species. You know, it's hard to beat gold, you know, in a lot of applications. But I don't know if anybody have any input on voodoo. You know, you guys can. Any other questions?
They're good under a popping cork.
You hear that? Under a popping cork, similar to, you have a, you can either do it like this, but a real popular way is, oh, there it is. The leader, say 3 foot, 4 foot, and then you do not need a split shot when using a 1/4 ounce jig with a tail. That works excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it goes up, then it comes down.
Yep.
And it pops up.
And it does one other thing. It clears you from oyster beds and
Yeah.
et cetera, places that you can't.
Voodoo
normally
is
use.
weighted.
Yeah, it's got a little weight.
Yeah.
Pop.
We used to sell a heck of them. They were really natural looking, if I remember right.
Jimmy, we only got 10 more minutes. Let's go to spots.
Okay. All right. You ready? This is it. Bull reds. And a lot of these spots you're already going to know, so, you know, bear with me. Straight across from the city marine. It's called, no, it's called Bill Supley's, rest in peace, secret hole. And everybody used to see him sitting there. And it was like, come on, Bill, saving fuel? That's ridiculous, man. Well, little did everybody know, he was out there knocking the out of the bull reds, you know? And then next thing you know, it's Alan's secret hole, Jimmy's secret hole, and everybody else in the whole town's secret hole. But that is one place. The mouth of Jolly, boom, behind the range, boom. I'll tell you a really good spot. You gotta be careful at the port. Last of the outgoing tide, right at the port. You anchor out, you know, of course, it's gotta be dead, you know, no ships, no nothing. But you anchor right out there if they don't run you off, man. And the other place is in front of the ice stop. Don't tie up to it, but just anchor outside of it. Be prepared that you might have to move. But in another month, when the mullet run goes, man, that's a sure shot for bull reds. And you don't have to go far. Okay, trout fishing. Probably one of my favorite, had been there, now remember I've been doing it for 4 years, but was the south end of the island at, you know, the first docks, first 3 docks. Used to kill it down there on the last of the outgoing tide, but I've seen where it's gotten real shallow in there, so I don't know if it's as effective. That was a great spot. Bell River. that just doesn't get any better, you know. Right when you come into Bell River, the first dock, when you get into Bell River, that was always a redfish spot. Not too many trout. Go down there towards Stelmach's house. You all know Stelmach. There's a shrimper right there. Mr. Stelmach, he died. Great guy. He was like 85 years old, and I saw him one day out on his rigger, the boat was doing circle, and I'm like, Jesus, he was out there fixing his net. True stud. All that area back in Bell River, I like it on the dock fishing, deep water, last of the outgoing. That's always the rule of thumb, in my opinion. Pelican Bank, and I am stretching a little bit, going outside it, but Pelican Bank at the jetties, it's on the north side, but it's right up on land. You have to go around and then come back in, and that is called Pelican Bank, and that's excellent for trout in the winter. Of course, the yacht basin, that's the hatchery, so we don't even have to talk about that. But let's think. Tell you some other Grayfield Inn, man. If you're going for a nice boat ride or something, tremendous trout fishing, big trout. You can do the first of the income there because your boat would be you would fish facing the dock. You fish this side and let it drift down by the dock. Excellent fishing right there.
What was that again? What place was that?
It's in Georgia at Cumberland Island, and there's a dock called the Grayfield Inn. And that is a great place to go visit and all that, and then bring your rods. And you have to have a Georgia license, but excellent fishing. And docks and things like that, they don't change over the years. You know, tide, wind, all that stuff, it's all good. You know, red fishing, you know, really any of your favorite docks, you know, Marsh Lakes, you go into, what's the next river up from Marsh Lakes? Before the Down Under, what was that?
Alligator Creek.
Yeah, Alligator Creek, but on the other side, that's Piney Island, you know, right there at Piney Island.
Jackson Creek.
Yeah, thank you. Speaking of Amelia City, a great topwater plug spot with a trolling motor. You work there at daybreak, that's tremendous fishing. Go ahead, and I know that's your neck of the woods now.
Jimmy, do you ever fish horseheaded?
I used to when I had a flats boat, and it's definitely flats boat area. You know, there is a cut, and it's deep. The rest of it, you know, it's pretty damn shallow. So I mean, I don't know what if you have a flats boat now, but or a smaller boat along with a bigger boat, that's excellent fishing for reds.
What area are you talking about?
Horsehead.
Where's that?
It's a shortcut coming off. Say you're coming from the Down Under going south. It's I think the second, third entrance. It's not at Marsh Lakes. Keep going past that. Turn right. And I'm telling you, better know where you're at, man. That's serious. That's a shortcut, or it can be a long cut. That's really tough.
I parked there for about 4 hours
Cut
one
your
night.
lower unit.
Hey, let me tell you, if somebody here says they never ran aground, well, then you know what? You haven't been fishing long enough. So now I've ran aground more times than I can count. I spent my whole life on the water. Sheephead, any dock. It's funny though, the docks that are more productive, like with sheephead, you'll look and see if that dock's worked by, you know, the white, the oysters that are tied up to the dock. You see a lot of white shells. That means an sheephead hit the shell, broke the shell, and that's what's remaining. So that's a good inclination that there's going to be good sheephead fishing. Down, I'll tell you, Nassau River, right at Seymour's Point, down along those docks are good.
Egan's Creek Bridge going over.
I don't ever go into Eagles Creek anymore. I used to catch so many fish in there, but I think the world knows it. I think it's on every, you know, but yeah, it's good fishing. Way on back towards the lake now. Real good fishing. I just, you know, what's so hard about it is you'll travel all the way down there and there's 5 boats there, and you're like, oh my God, it took you 15 minutes to get there. So you got a, what are those things called? A drone, man.
Yeah, drone, there you go.
I'm sorry?
Night fishing.
Night fishing, I never did much of it, honestly. I was a daytime guy. I'll tell you, you know, a good nighttime spot under Rainier, the lights, that dock, that's good at night. The south end, those docks, they're lit up, but really don't, I can't, you know, tell you that much about night fishing. I didn't do that much of it, you know. I don't, somebody else. Flounder spots. I gotta watch myself here.
We don't want to make Marvin mad.
Yeah, he's my buddy, man. You know, I'll tell you what, I didn't say I was gonna talk about it, but I will. On this instance, a buddy of mine's been catching the heck out of them on the north and south jetties at low tide. I mean, he's been tearing them up. Slack tide, you know, right when it slows down. There's a good spot on the South Jetty Riverside called the Domino Rock. That's a killer spot for flounder.
On Fletcher Road, down by the surf bar, there's a motel there with the pier.
Yep.
I've heard some good stories about flounder there.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. You know, going there early in the morning. I've never done it, but I used to, at the shop, they used to come in and tell me that, you know, you want to do it in the morning or something like that. Hey, I'll tell you one thing, and I mean this since I don't think I ever did this to anybody. If I did, shame on me, but if there's a guy fishing at a spot, and you're on a boat and the dude's walking, you know, or something, there's enough spots to go somewhere else, man. I mean, I don't believe you should, you know, that's just a little tidbit, but anyway, you know, it's just courtesy, you know. Unless I did it to one of you guys, I'm sorry. Anybody else have any questions?
Colors of lures?
Oh, good question. This color is a real popular electric chicken, and I'll tell you my favorite winter color was, and I'm partial, but was a Contender Christmas tree. And you get some dye, they sell dye, you know, you can buy it fishing, you know, for dipping, and you dip that tail in the bright, in the deep red. I'm telling you, man, that is, I got one here, hang on. Yeah, right here. You can have this one. Yeah, that is like I mean, I had a tackle shop, I could get any lure I wanted. That's the only thing I use. I like it with a red head, but I just, you know, white head. Pardon me?
Red head, red tail.
Yeah, I always use red head usually, but that one was with the red tail. But the Christmas tree, the other color is chartreuse. Chartreuse with glitter. That, and you know, you got it. It's your,
I'll take it if you want.
I bet you it's a dull hook.
I'll come to you. Thank you.
Ghost shrimp.
All right. Appreciate
What's
it.
that?
Ghost shrimp.
I don't know anything about it. Anybody know anything about the ghost shrimp?
Take it on the fish
Yeah.
bite.
Yeah, I know that.
You gotta pump, you gotta pump them.
When'd that come out? Is that recent or something?
You gotta pump them and then you gotta wrap them in thread.
You gotta wrap them in thread.
Last
Really?
30 years, yeah.
No kidding, man. I've been way out.
I'll sell you my ghost puppet.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, as long as it's a ghost. Here. Here you go, man. Hold my microphone for me.
No problem.
Here you go. This is a killer one. Oh, you got one. Anybody want a jig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is a paddle tail. I told Jamie I was gonna bring Contenders, and I honestly ran behind it. I didn't get them, but I can drop some by. They do sell them, but I mean I happen to have like a small fortress of them. But this shows you how it's rigged. And, you know, a 1/4 ounce jig head.
Want you to bite
Oh.
back?
Yeah, you can hold it 1 second. I'm gonna rig another one. This is a paddle tail, and it's electric chicken, and that shows you how to rig it. You want to go straight up. Who else wants one? I got plenty of them. Did you get one yet? Yeah. No, we got. Well, we have to sit with that.
What do you want? That's right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna rig some. Anybody that want it, I'll give them all to what I have.
Speak up, we have how you think?
That's right.
See, the main thing about rigging these is you don't want them to be in a bind, because then it'll twirl. So you want it to be streamlined, you know? Who else wants one? Marvin, you need some of these? I know you've been... No, I'm just kidding. I'll take one. Here you go. Don't forget